Hi, how are you? It's really good to see you. Thanks for tuning in once again, and how lovely to be with you. I talked in the last video about this being July being eclipse season, and it's also retrograde season. It's quite a busy month, July. So I'm going to be talking to you about the 7th, the 8th, and the 10th of July. We've got Mars going retrograde in Leo on the 7th. He has only been in Leo for 1 week and is about to go retrograde. And then we're also going to have Chiron, which is a asteroid about to go retrograde on the 8th very quickly in Aries. And luckily for us, deep breath, on the 10th, Jupiter will turn direct. So on the 7th, when Mars goes retrograde, we will have 5 planets in retrograde. On the 8th, when Chiron goes retrograde, we are going to have 5 planets and an asteroid in retrograde. Now this happened about the same time last year, so we are in the middle of a major cleaning, and personal growth spurt that's happening. And this is going to continue through. So it's quite a time of movement. Now, a lot of people worry a great deal about retrogrades, and there's really no need to worry about them. They're a fabulous opportunity for us to rework, rethink, and to be basically shown those things that are holding us back. It shows us our patterns of behavior that are not building us, that are not taking us forward. And they show us those areas that we perhaps have been neglecting in terms of building ourselves personally. So let's have a look at what we've got. We've got Mars going retrograde in Leo. So we've got Mercury, we've got Mars. And they're going to be working with one another. So remember, we spoke about this being a time when we're going to be very bullish with our communication, perhaps maybe a little bit too bullish, but it's definitely a time for us to be speaking up. This will continue, but because Mars is now going into retrograde, what that might mean is that we might find ourselves being a little bit too opinionated, perhaps even a little bit dogged, and not necessarily being open to influences from others. But Mercury and Mars, they have very small retrogrades, so we don't need to worry too much about the length of time for this. But see this as an opportunity where we are being blinded or too opinionated about things that are going around us, that'll be shown to us, and that gives us an opportunity to review our standpoint on that. And likewise, just be prepared for when you're having conversations with people. They are also going to be under this influence, and they're also going to want to be heard, and often want to be heard at your expense, and similar behavior from us. So just be aware that that's what's happening at this time with Mars going retrograde. The bigger news is on the 8th, Chiron, which is a asteroid, but a really important asteroid, is called the Wounded Healer for a good reason, is going retrograde as well. And this again, now it's a nice long retrograde this time. It's going to go retrograde right up until December. It's going retrograde in Aries. So, and Aries is also a fiery sign, quite a dominant sign, quite a direct sign. It is fire. And it's also a pioneering sign. So Chiron, who's the wounded healer, warrior healer, and what that is about is that Chiron is there to show us where we are carrying with us our spiritual wounds, and those wounds are deep within us, and they're causing us to have behaviors that limit us and limit our growth. So this is what's happening. Now what's happening, which is interesting about Chiron going retrograde, is that we've also had this new moon eclipse where we've been looking at our vulnerabilities, or more correctly, looking at where we are not embracing those vulnerabilities, where we are trying to pretend we are impenetrable, invulnerable, and therefore master of the universe. This is so not the way to go. So Chiron is going to double on down with the new moon solar eclipse in Cancer, and it's going to make sure that we are not kidding ourselves and not being too bullish about our vulnerabilities. We need to embrace them and understand them. That will help us understand our humanity. That will also help us understand our strengths, and it will help us turn what we perceive weaknesses into our personal strengths. So this is another opportunity for us to grow. So there are some things that we hold too tight, and that makes us vulnerable because we have too strong a hold on it, and we are actually doing this out of fear or out of habit. So therefore we become vulnerable. Or also there are aspects of us that we have been completely ignoring because we haven't wanted to be in touch with them, because we believe that they might be unpopular, so that will make us feel vulnerable. Or they might not be how we see ourselves. It might not be how we want to be seen. So there's these different aspects that it's going to come into play with Chiron going into retrograde. But she's there for 6 months. It's a long, slow retrograde. She is an Aries, so it's going to be a little bit fiery. So don't be surprised if what happens is that you're going to be feeling really passionate and strong about something. And in that moment of this declaration of passion and strength about something, particularly a belief or a behavior, and your right to hold that belief and that behavior, you always have your right to your belief and your behavior, just need to be aware of impacting other people. You might be shown something that highlights to you that the intention behind all of this is not one of empowerment through embracing and being authentic, but it's one of empowerment through ignoring an aspect of you. Likewise, we might also be getting that feedback from other people in our discussions with them, and it might be quite verbally strong. And we might be a little bit shocked by that because it's like, a big argument or a big discussion. Or it might be a truth that cuts across something we believe so firmly, and that's going to shock us a little bit. But the idea behind all of this shocking us is so we can go in, expose, and heal it and get comfortable with it. We want to be complete human beings. We don't want to be half-half. We really want to be living in the moment, living to our fullest extent, and embracing life in a way that enhances not just our experience of life, but enhances the experience of life around us. So this is what Chiron is pushing us to do. So on the 7th and the 8th, 5 planets in retrograde, and if you don't consider Neptune, Pluto, major planets because they are small dwarf planets, that's okay. And then we're going to have Chiron, which is an asteroid, which behaves a little bit differently because it has a different way in terms of its orbit. But it's also quite a strong influencer, also in retrograde. So you can see that we're going to have this churn that's going to be happening. We've had this eclipse. Now we're having another series of retrogrades. And then in another week's time, and about the 16th, and I'll give you another video for that, we're going to have another eclipse. So you can see we're in a process. So be kind to yourself and be kind to other people, and remind yourself to be generous with your thoughts and your actions at this time, and particularly to yourself, and particularly to people who push your buttons. People who push your buttons, who are showing up now, are showing up for a reason. Now, the other thing that happens with retrogrades is when we are doing this cleansing process or this releasing process, it's not immediate. So sometimes we can release aspects of a particular behavior or belief system that we need to release, but others retain. So it's often we release something, we heal a little bit. When that wound heals, that enables us to go further and we see the next aspect that needs to be healed. So we heal that, we release that, and then lo and behold, there's the next aspect, because we are not singular beings. We operate physical, emotional, energetic, and spiritual basis. So there's all these levels that we need to make sure are aligned and cleansed. And sometimes we are only capable of moving something at the physical level, then we're moving it at the emotional level, then we're moving it at the energetic level, and then we're moving it at the spiritual level. One might not necessarily be able to move all of them at the same time. It depends how deeply rooted they are, and it depends how complex they are, and also it depends on our ability to be at times brutally honest with ourselves about ourselves. And right now, this is a really good time for you to be brutally honest with yourself about yourself, but do that with great love, affection, and care. So that's Chiron going into retrograde. Lucky for us, Jupiter is going to turn direct on the 10th of July, and Jupiter is one of these planets that magnifies everything, that wants to expand us, and it will expand us in all sorts of ways, both good and bad. So it's kind of nice that in this time when we're being really brutally honest with ourselves, that Jupiter, the planet of expansion, decides to go direct. So what that means is that we'll start to take the good aspects of us forward and expand that for us. So that is nice, and that is really, really lovely. The other thing I just want to say to you about retrogrades and also about the eclipse season is please remember that we are all on our own path. We're all on our own timeline. We all have our own natal chart. So we have different planets and aspects in different houses, and we need to be aware of that. So how these things manifest themselves in you and in me, it's going to be a little bit different. So just be aware that what I'm giving you is examples of how to work with these retrogrades, and bear that in mind. If you've got actual questions, any questions about behaviors or the retrogrades or patterns of behaviors that you're seeing in yourself or others, you can always get in contact with me. You can message me and I'll just get back to you. If you're on my Facebook page, message me. And if you're not, I'll leave the link below and you can chat that up. And if you can also then send me an email. All right. So that's it. Very nice. Remember to breathe. Take time out to yourself. And please, let's just be gentle with everyone. Okay. Nice to spend time with you.